This episode of The Pour recorded at the Lowbro Studios at Timbre Winery. Great people, great wines, timbrewinery.com. All right, let's pour this one slow because what you're about to hear is more than an interview, it's an experience. Right here in Paso, something brand new has arrived. A living, glowing, breathing installation that turns music into light and light into emotion. It's called FOSO, the Fiber Optic Symphonic Orchestra. It's the latest piece to light up Sensorio in Paso. It's also the very first time internationally acclaimed artist Bruce Munro has collaborated with an original orchestral score. And best part, that score was composed by none other than Emmy winner Nainita Desai. This is the kind of art you don't just look at. You walk through it, you feel it, you breathe it. And in this convo, we're going to kind of unlock how it came to life, why Paso is the perfect place, and what happens when sound and light don't just perform, they collide. Excited to share this pour with you with Bruce Munro and Nainita Desai. First, I want to thank our friends at Tin City Distillery. Embark on your own personal barrel aging journey with my friends at Tin City Distillery. The Private Barrel Club lets you experience the art of crafting your own whiskey barrel, sharing the journey and tastings with friends as it ages. Members enjoy priority access to the exclusive Private Barrel Club lounge, special events, even the opportunity to host a private party when it's time to bottle your creation. How dope is that? Plus, you'll enjoy 15% discount on all food and beverages while you're hanging out at Tin City Distillery. You ready to begin your barrel aging adventure like I was? Mine's right up there. I love it. I love going to visit it. Visit tincitydistillery.com and learn more.
For the last 15 years, Adam Montiel has been bringing you the stories, the people, and the producers that make wine better and more fun. Whether you're a connoisseur or a cork. Here, we taste it, we spill it, we leave it all on the table. It's The Pour with Adam Montiel.
So my guest today, not just artists, but really architects of wonder. Bruce Munro is the UK-based visionary behind Sensorio's iconic Field of Light, Light Towers, and now his latest installation in Paso, FOSO. His work just lives around the world, from Australia to Mexico to Napa. But here in Paso, his footprint is now too big to deny. Nainita Desai is one of the most sought-after composers in the world right now. Emmy winner, RTS winner, Ivor Novello nominee. She scored Oscar-nominated docs, experimental films, Netflix originals, and now, for the first time ever, she's written a full orchestral work designed for light. Bruce, Nainita, thank you so much for being here, guys.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really excited to chat with both of you. Bruce, when did you first each realize, Bruce, that your medium could truly move people like that?
It's been something with me all my life, but my initial medium was obviously paint and brushes. And then in my 20s, it moved into light. And light seemed such a perfect medium because you can flick a switch and it's there, and flick it again and it's gone. So it's not a showy medium in that way. You know it's ephemeral, and I like the fact that it can disappear.
Now, Nainita, talk about that moment where it really shifted from craft to something almost, spiritual for you with your art, when it stopped being just what you do and became really who you are.
Well, I mean, I'm a very visually inspired composer, and I've always I see myself as a storyteller through music. I've been writing music for film and television my whole career. And so working on this project when Bruce approached me was like not a coming of age, but it's like a coming out of my shell project, where I'm so used to serving other people's vision, creative vision, stories, scripts, dramas, shows, documentaries, whatever. And here, Bruce gave me almost carte blanche to write whatever I wanted. But because I love visuals, I'm one of my one of my heroes visually was Vittorio Storaro. He is a very famous cinematographer in feature films, and he paints with light. And being able to translate music into different colors and emotion and take you on this roller coaster journey was something that I was really interested in exploring on this work.
Now, let's say the name of the installation so I make sure I'm saying it right. It is.
Well, I call it FOSO.
FOSO.
Or FOSO. It depends on which country you're in. If it's,
FOSO.
Yeah, but it's Fiber Optic Symphonic Orchestra. I mean, it's a difficult one because I just didn't know what to call it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to call it light orchestra, but then that's I can't do that.
Right,
So,
no, sure. You're going to cease and desist there from ELO.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I'll be shot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, also, it might bring them back, though. Shoot, if it got more people talking about them, maybe you're onto something. FOSO isn't just really a show. It's like this sensory portal. Was there a moment during the creation, Bruce, where you thought, whoa, we're building something the world hasn't even seen or heard before?
It was a childhood dream, really. The idea was something that probably every child would love to do, is walk around an orchestra while it's playing. And as a child, the formality of an orchestra always slightly upset me.
Oh, did it?
Well, just you just want to break down the barriers a bit, and so that developed as a concept. And then it was later on in life that this whole thing came together, where I actually was thinking about it as an idea that I could actually bring to the fore. While I was living in Australia, I was aware that the famous Hills hoist, which is a washing line, is always seen as a rather unsightly object that you have in your back garden. And I thought, there's something I should beautify in some way. And then I sort of one day woke up and thought, well, maybe this could be the instrument, the player. So every player is in fact the same object. So I love repetitive objects and I love pragmatic objects. So we beautified it with a fiber optic web of light, and then the whole idea developed from there.
Now, your work lives in nature, but it feels otherworldly. How do you tether something so ephemeral to the earth and still make it feel like it's from another dimension?
I think that I'm very playful with materials. I'm very conscious of rather like Nainita, I like telling stories. So the concepts and always the narrative is always developed from an experience I've had about being in the world, and it's generally informed by nature itself, a natural consequence. And it's something that we all see and feel, and I'm trying to really just accentuate everyday happenings that we all happen. So there's a familiarity there.
Yeah.
This isn't an intellectual exercise. It's a spiritual exercise, and it's a human exercise.
Nainita, FOSO wasn't scored to picture or character. It's all feeling. What changed in you when you were writing music purely to serve light?
Well, as I said earlier, I'm so used to serving other people's narrative and stories. And here, I didn't have that. So I needed to create my own narrative, which makes it possibly the hardest creative challenge I've ever embarked on. Really? We spent years working on this. And so what I did was to draw and pull from my personal background, which is based in mathematics. I have a degree in maths. And I'm quite nerdy and techie and geeky, but also at the same time I love mathematics because it encapsulates I'm really interested in the beauty of numbers, the beauty of mathematics, which you find all around us. So coming back to nature, something based on the Fibonacci sequences, this series of numbers, which you find everywhere around you, from the shell on a snail to the spiral of the arms of the galaxy and their constellations to leaves and trees and petals on flowers. It's all around us, even though we don't realize it. And so looking at these connections with nature and numbers and rhythm and color and light, Bruce had devised this concept of creating these 32 columns of light. And the only brief he gave me was to make full use of the symphonic orchestra and to start and end the piece as though the orchestra are tuning up. And so it's cyclical. It goes round. After 30 minutes, we go back to the top and it's looped. So that was the basic framework that I had to work with. So pulling from these ideas of we had each column of light has its own set of speakers, and out of each set of speakers is output a separate musical element, a string. Like if you want to, so it's
like a violin or a
yes,
cello or
exactly, or the flutes of brass, woodwind, electronics, human voice. We can be inside an orchestra, as Bruce said. As a child, you want to be running around inside this immersive experience, and you can walk in and hone in on all these different elements, or you can sit back on the side and enjoy the whole array of lights. So my narrative that I created was based on these ideas of numbers and nature and so on, but also making my own visual patterns. These are all going to create different, based on what the instruments play, they're all going to form different formations and patterns and maps. And then we assigned different frequencies of the different instruments to different colors. So not only is everything connected rhythmically, but it's also creating beautiful arrays of colors in front of us. So that was something that I really kept in my mind when I was composing, having to project these thoughts and ideas. We didn't know what it was going to be like.
Well, sure.
We had no idea what it would look like. So
also, just these two artists are just going full bore with their spirit. At some points, there's got to be places where, we collide a little bit and figure out how, Bruce, how are we directing? What are we looking for? And so much of, your artistic expression, is being devoted to opening it up to somebody else to flow through you and to flow through your expression of light. What was that process like?
So you're exactly right. You're really working with not only other artists and people working on the project with you, but you're working with ultimately with the people who come and see it. It's that's an terribly important part of the process. The idea from developing the sort of visual score, the light score, as it were, there had to be some sort of logic, and there is actually a person who we both should give credit to, is a chap called Ian Ellaby, who I've worked with for years and years, who is one of these very quietly sort of backroom geniuses who actually did all the light translation of Nainita's beautiful score. But we had many discussions. He would create something with Nainita's score and then play it to me in a visual sense, and then that's when I have to sort of do my bit and say, look, it's not kind of whole. It's not doing what I feel it should be. One of the interesting things is, well, what's the negative in when you have silence, because the instruments are only playing together at one time. Very rarely, a lot of instruments are quiet. So we had to come up with, do you have no light? When we tried that, it was terrible. You just had a sort of these gaping holes in the installation as a whole. So when you actually go through that process, and this happened over a number of years, as Nainita has said, this is a sort of 5-year project from start to and still going really, and we had that consideration, and ultimately I feel we've ended up with something that can only be improved. I mean, artworks do move forward in time, and I've no doubt that both Nainita and myself will probably see other ways that we can push the work a little bit.
Yeah. It's so interesting the way that balance of the delicate but powerful balance that you guys create, syncing the sight and the sound without letting one overpower the other. Bruce, your pieces often ask people to kind of slow down. Was FOSO a commentary on the noise of modern life in a way?
No, actually, it was a contrast. In Sensorio, we do have 3 silent pieces and we have 2 musical pieces. So there's the field of light, which is a silent piece that allows you to be immersed in nature, and fireflies, which is a similar a similar thing to the field of light, and then gone fishing. Gone fishing is actually created from fishing poles, and it's sort of slightly humorous in the sense that my brother and I, when we were younger, he was a fisherman. I used to go and sketch while he was fishing, but as an adult, I always noted that was a silent activity, an activity to forget the stresses and strains of daily life. Mm-hmm. Light Towers and FOSO are two musical pieces. One is for the voice, Light Towers, and this is very much more, what do I say, something that we've really all had to work hard at because it's more complex.
It's epic.
Yeah, it is epic.
I can only imagine for you, Nainita, that you work with visually artistic types all the time, mm-hmm. but this is probably a very unique person to be collaborating with, where I can imagine someone in your position going, okay, well, what's my goal? How do I know I did it right? It's so subjective. It's such this deep introspective, and it's really subjective, this kind of expression. So I need to know that I'm doing a good job at this. What were those conversations like?
Well, when I'm composing, I always want to, when I'm in the flow and creating, I get excited. And I know if I'll sing if I come up with a tune or a melody, I'll sing it into my iPhone. If I'm out shopping or something, or even driving, I'll think, inspiration has struck. I'll sing something.
You just open up your notes app or something? Or, yeah, I love that.
I'll sing it.
You must have a trillion of them in there, yeah.
And then I'll come back to it the next day, and if it stays with me and I listen back to my audio recording the next day, I think, that's worth pursuing. Then I know that it's an idea worth working on and developing further. Or I go, that was rubbish, or I had too many glasses of wine, when I was doing, then it's not going to work. But I think so. I want to capture that magic of inspiration that happens, and then I'll write very, very quickly, and then I will develop the idea further and work in forensic detail. And but I want people to your question about how do I know whether it's right or wrong, I want people to feel when my work is shared into the world like this, I want people to feel what I felt when I was composing it through the myriad of emotions that I was feeling. I want to take people with this incredible light display and synergy of visual and audio immersive experience, to take them on this emotional roller coaster, to make them, go from the epic growth of something dynamic and cinematic to something really intimate, to almost silence, mm-hmm. to highs and lows through this emotional diaspora, and take them on a journey.
Oh, I can't wait to check it out. Paso, Bruce, isn't just a location for you; it's now a collaborator. Right? How did this land shape the energy of FOSO? And with that, really, how has your, evolving relationship with Paso since the first installation of Field of Light evolved the way you work with it?
One thing we must mention, and the generosity of the patrons, the hunters who have brought this to Paso, and over the last number of years, they actually had the passion to do it, and it was a goal of theirs to bring science and the arts and nature together. So we have to thank them. The landscape actually tells you so much. So when you're in a space, it speaks to you, and it particularly on the structure of a sculptural installation, and I've been doing that for a lot of my life, so it's a sort of second language to me. I feel very comfortable in that space. Going back to something that Nainita mentioned, which I think is really funny, for two people, I don't know about Nainita, but I grew up with sketchbooks and pens and drawing implements. And funnily enough, now my iPhone is my sketchbook. It's
right.
It's my collector of data, of light. And, just think about this for a moment. Every moment of every day is a unique moment, and we are moving through this bubble of light continuously from our birth to our death. And in a sense, this is doing all these things is just just part of those moving bubbles of light. And that, thankfully, has been, with technology and the birth of an iPhone or the invention of an iPhone, has allowed people like myself to just move slightly in a different direction, and the world is getting very exciting. And Nainita was just saying we were having a conversation about virtual reality and headsets and what's in the future.
Yeah,
it's just incredible. I would love to come back in 100 years and see what's going on.
I don't know if I would. I don't know. But we talk about that, and I had another guest in here yesterday. We're talking about AI.
Yeah.
And here is both of your professions and loves have seen AI, and there's a lot of ways that you can use AI to kind of help you in your creativity. And I know there's a lot of creative people that are really worried that people are going to kind of move into a field with no creativity because now the AI gave them that creativity.
I think certainly, in anything like creating, writing, painting, creating music, writing books, I think AI is there. I think with any progress of evolution and development of technology, we have to learn to embrace it and use it as a tool, as a smart tool. I think people are invested in human beings and human stories. I think that's never going to go away. If I hear a piece of music that's written by AI and technology, I go, well, what's the story of that artist? I want to, I'm not interested because I want to hear about all the flaws and the challenges and the difficulties that the artist had, to create that work of art. They slaved away and they tortured themselves, and through addictions and lives and divorces and all those, and that's what makes a piece of art unique and special, because you're invested in the story of that human being, and it makes it real. I mean, with FOSO, with the music was all created by real musicians. I had an orchestra or some of the world's best musicians playing on this in Vienna or Austria, and hopefully that emotional connection when you hear musicians playing and performing the work, that emotional investment that that human expression that goes into performing the music will translate to the audience, because ultimately I'm creating this work not only to satisfy my creative ego and who I am at this moment in time in telling Bruce's story and this amazing work, but also for other people to experience it and to be able to share it with the world. There's no point in creating something where nobody's going to hear it. Why am I doing this? I'm doing it because I want to share that joy and bring a bit of beauty out into the world.
We always ask this, especially to winemakers and folks, about, how much of this is craft, how much of this is art, right? And, you mentioned at the beginning of this, you're a real numbers and a math person, and those are really important to you, and that's fascinating to you. Obviously, Bruce, with the art that you're doing, we're talking technology, we're talking O's and ones, we're talking digital fiber optics. I mean, this is a lot of math. What is that dichotomy of soul and art versus craft?
I always think of myself as being a bit old-fashioned, and I know fiber optics sounds very modern, but actually they've been around since I was a kid, and I'm old. So I've always, art for me is very much as Nainita expressed, it's about telling stories, and it's telling stories about real experiences, but they're shared experiences. I'll give you an example. When I was 21, my father lived by the sea. I was running down a cliff path, and it was a summer's evening, and I disappeared from myself for about 30 seconds. And all I could smell was sort of wild apricots, which was the gorse. And there was the sea in front of me, looking down on the sea. I was quite high above, and it was shimmering with light. And I just felt that I had walked into some incredible bubble of where I just disappeared and became part of something. Now, that memory I wrote down in a sketchbook. And through my life, I'd had lots of these little moments of what I call connection, which I know we all do, but you don't give it credence. You just forget it and go, well, that was a nice experience. It was later on in life I thought, what is art? What do you make art about? What's worthy of an artistic effort? And then I thought, well, those moments of connection, they're shared, and they're something we all get. So I thought that's the subject matter I should focus on, and that's as simple as that. It was that emotional, spiritual connection with the world around me, which happens very rarely. But if you train yourself, you can actually experience it more often.
What do you hope lingers with one long after the lights go dim and the music fades and they leave FOSO? Because when they walk through it, they become part of it. How do you hope they feel as they leave?
It's very simple: a warmer heart and a lighter step. I know it sounds really corny, but that's, if you can make somebody feel that they're a happier person when they've seen something, you've done a service to a positive thing to the world.
Yeah.
And that's all you can ask for. And I don't ask them to do, and hopefully they get that. If they don't, then obviously that's not so good. But that's what I try and achieve.
What about when you leave? I mean, you don't live here. So you've grown this relationship with Paso, but that last time you turn your shoulder away from the field of light, away from FOSO now, what are some of those feelings like, until next time, I guess? Like,
yeah,
be good.
It's like leaving old friends, and you make many friends on these installations. You meet the people who've been involved in the making of the installations and the organisation. And that's not just the artistic people, it's the people who've put in infrastructure and the marketing and the as I said, we're all connected. So, but you've got a warm feeling, and look, maybe you meet again, maybe you don't, but just that we only change each other with memory, with experience, and those experiences make us who we are. So that's what you can do. Just try and make good experiences for other people, and the world will move in a more positive direction.
Nainita, you're visiting here. When you turn around for the final time and walk away from FOSO after spending so much time with it as the community, and you get to celebrate it, what are some of the feelings that you'll leave behind?
Well, I mean, I'm looking for... It leaves me with warmth and joy, and I hope that the audiences will continue to express that, to feel that. But I know that with all the visitors, the future visitors coming to Sensorio and experiencing FOSO, I'm hoping that they experience what we've had. I want to create a bit of joy out of the chaos in the world, and a bit of beauty. And I think, and also for me, I've discovered more about myself and my place in this world, and to connect with other human beings. And I want other people, I want the visitors to experience that and feel that, to find our place in the world and find out who we are as humans, and experiencing immersive experiences like this. This is the culmination of so many years' work. This is the culmination of my life's work in many respects, because this is who I am at this moment in time. And so I want to be able to, evoke that and share in other people's experiences, and just enjoy the beauty.
I really appreciate it. I hope you guys both had fun in this conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, that has been wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you. The wine was excellent, and the host was excellent.
Yes, thanks to Josh Clapper and Timbre.
Thank you.
And really appreciate your time and for sharing with us.
Cheers.
It's The Pour with Adam Montiel. We taste it, we spill it, we leave it all on the table. You can hear The Pour in its entirety on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube Music, and wherever you get your podcasts. For more, visit adammontiel.com.